Welcome to Catholic Shrine Basilica YouTube channel. Basilica of Our Lady of Scherpenheuvel, Montaigu, Belgium. Introduction. The Basilica of Our Lady of Scherpenheuvel, Dutch, Basiliek van ons Lieve Vrouw van Scherpenheuvel, French, Basilique de Notre Dame de Montaigu, is a Roman Catholic parish church and minor basilica in Scherpenheuvel Zeeland, Belgium. The church was consecrated in 1627 and raised to the status of a minor basilica in 1922. It is reputedly the most frequently visited shrine of pilgrimage in Belgium. While the cult on the Scherpenheuvel, or Sharp Hill, is older, its present architectural layout and its enduring importance are due to the patronage of the Archdukes Albert and Isabella and the Counter-Reformation. Origins. For many years the Marian cult on the Scherpenheuvel centered on a small statue of the Virgin Mary that hung in an oak tree on top of the hill. According to the foundation legend, a shepherd noticed that the image had fallen to the ground and decided to take it home. When he had lifted it, he discovered he was unable to move. As the herd did not return in the evening, his master got worried and went to look for the shepherd. Only by restoring the statue to its original place in the oak tree could the master release the shepherd, thereby discovering the spiritual importance of the site. The veracity of this story is impossible to ascertain. It is however clear that the inhabitants of the nearby town of Zeeland would frequent the site in the second half of the 16th century whenever a member of the family suffered from illness. They would traditionally walk round the tree 3 times while praying. Zeeland was part of the barony of Diest, a possession of the House of Orange-Nassau. In the course of the Dutch revolt the barony changed hands several times. While occupied by forces of the United Provinces between 1580 and 1583, the statue was removed in an act of iconoclasm. After the town was retaken by Alexander Farnese, the parishioners of Zeeland restored the cult in 1587. It was later claimed that they did so after discovering the original statue and returning it to the tree. From then on the cult of Our Lady of Scherpenheuvel began to expand. Soldiers and almoners of the Army of Flanders that were stationed in nearby Diest or Zeeland helped to spread its reputation. Development of the shrine. After an official inquiry, Matthias Jovius, Archbishop of Mechelen, approved the cult of Scherpenheuvel in 1604. The approval was accompanied by the publication of a collection of miracles ascribed to the intercession of the Virgin of Scherpenheuvel in Dutch, French, and Spanish. An English translation followed in 1606. Philip Newman, who had authored the collection, produced 2 more editions, 1605 and 1606, as well as 3 more collections, 1613 to 1614, 1617 and 1617 to 1618, in short succession. Latin versions were published by the famous humanists Justus Lipsius, 1605, and Erasius Putanus, 1622. Lesser authors would produce continuations up to 1706. According to these publications, close to 700 miracles were credited to the intercession of Our Lady of Scherpenheuvel in the course of the 17th century. The Latin collections in particular caused a lot of controversy among theologians, with Calvinist authors ridiculing the whole idea of miraculous intercession by saints. Meanwhile, it had been decided in 1602 to remove the statue from the oak tree and house it in a small wooden chapel nearby. Within the year the chapel proved too small and was replaced by a modest stone edifice. Its foundation stone was laid on 13th of July 1603 by Count Frederick van den Berg on behalf of the Archdukes Albert and Isabella. From that point on the Archdukes showed great interest in the development of the shrine. Attributing the recent relief of the besieged town of Hertogenbosch to the intercession of the Virgin, Albert and Isabella made their first pilgrimage to Scherpenheuvel on 20th of November 1603. It would soon become a yearly pilgrimage that took place in May or June and lasted the 9 days of a novena. Under the patronage of the archdukes, the emerging shrine was raised to the status of a town in 1605 and of an independent parish in 1610. Their support helped to ensure the grant of a papal indulgence on 16th of September 1606, the feast of Our Lady of Sorrows. In the previous summer the stone chapel was surrounded by a closed garden or hortus conclusus in the shape of a heptagon. Shortly after reaching a ceasefire with the United Provinces, Albert and Isabella announced on 28 April 1607 that they would build a vast church and surround it with a planned and fortified town. The foundation stone of the third and present church was laid by them in person on 2 July 1609, the Feast of the Visitation. With the bell tower left unfinished, the church was dedicated by Archbishop Jacobus Boonen in June 1627. In order to ensure that a sufficient number of priests would be available to meet the needs of the ever-growing number of pilgrims, the shrine was handed over to the Oratorians. They built a convent behind the church and connected the two buildings with a long corridor. The Oratorians took care of the sanctuary until the French Republic annexed the Austrian Netherlands and dissolved all monasteries. The church then returned to the status of a parish church. Architecture and decoration of the basilica. The archducal architect and engineer Wenceslas Koberger is generally credited with designing the church and staking out the general outlay of the town of Scherpenheuvel. Both the church and the town are in fact determined by the hortus conclusus in the shape of a heptagon. The basilica is a central and domed structure, resting on 7 columns. The main altar stands on the site of the oak tree. It is surrounded on 6 sides by chapels. The 7th side opens onto the vestibule, that is flanked by 2 more chapels. The side chapels are connected with an ambulatory, that enables pilgrims to walk round without entering the central space. On the opposite side of the vestibule stands the unfinished bell tower. Underneath the tower and on the outer walls are 7 more altars. One of the most striking features of the exterior are the hundreds of 7-pointed gilded stars that cover the surface of the dome. The overall design of the church shows a lot of resemblance with the iconic but posterior, 1631 to 1681, Basilica of Santa Maria della Salute in Venice. The main altar and 6 side altars are decorated with altarpieces by Theodore van Loon. They represent 7 scenes from the life of the Virgin. The encounter at the Golden Gate, serving as a depiction of the Immaculate Conception, the birth of the Virgin, the presentation of the Virgin, the Annunciation, the Visitation and the presentation of Jesus at the temple feature in the side chapels. The altarpiece of the main altar depicts the Assumption of the Virgin. A number of other paintings adorn the basilica, one of which is Theodore van Loon's Lamentation of Christ. The statuary is by the sculptors de Nole and features the 6 statues of prophets on the columns in the central space of the basilica, 4 seated evangelists in the vestibule, as well as the 2 archangels flanking the main entrance. The iconographical program of the basilica is particularly rich. The recurrent use of the number 7 recalls the cult of the 7 sorrows of the Virgin. Building on a tradition dating from the late 15th century, Our Lady of Sorrows was considered the protectress of the unity of the Burgundian Netherlands. Built at a time that legitimate rule over the Low Countries was disputed between the monarchical and Catholic Southern Netherlands and the Republican and Calvinist United Provinces, the cult of Our Lady of Sorrows harkened back to the days of political and religious unity. On a further level, The iconography of the basilica develops a defense of the doctrine of the Immaculate Conception by employing a series of Marian emblems from the litanies. Thus the 7 columns on which the dome rests refer to the 7 columns of the House of Wisdom or Domus Sapientiae in Proverbs 9:1. With its archangels standing guard and side altars dedicated to all saints and all angels, the entrance and vestibule constitute the gateway to heaven or Porta Caeli. The bell tower evokes the Tower of David or Turris Davidica, from which one could supposedly see Shechem, or in the case of Scherpenheuvel Zeehem/Sichem. Other such emblems include the Jacob's Ladder or Scala Jacob, the Ark of the Covenant or Arca Testamenti, the Strong City or Urbs Fortitudinis, and of course the Closed Garden or Hortus Conclusus. Distinctions granted to the Basilica. The image of Our Lady of Scherpenheuvel was solemnly crowned by Cardinal Victor Auguste Isidore Deschamps on behalf of Pope Pius IX on 25 August 1872. 50 years later, Pope Pius XI raised the shrine to the status of a minor basilica on 2 May 1922. On 2 February 2011, Pope Benedict XVI dedicated that year's golden rose to the basilica. It was ceremoniously presented by the papal nuncio Monsignor Giacinto Burlacco on 15 May 2011 with grand pontifical ceremony. Traditional devotional practices. The pilgrimage season runs from 1 May to the first week of November. In 2010, almost 1,200 groups of pilgrims visited the shrine, with parties traveling from as far as Zost in the Netherlands and Fulda in Germany. Over the centuries, many parishes or even towns adopted the practice of a collective pilgrimage. Quite a few have survived until today. Probably the best known is De Groot Trek, that covers the 57-kilometer from Antwerp to Scherpenheuvel and has been held on every first Sunday of May since 1931. Pilgrims that have made journey on foot 25 or 50 times are traditionally entitled to a special blessing with the statue of Our Lady of Scherpenheuvel. On the Sunday after All Hallows, the statue of the Virgin is carried round the basilica in the Karskensprocessie or procession of candles. It takes its name from the numerous candles that are lit by the faithful as the statue passes by. Every 25 years, the crowning of the statue of Our Lady of Scherpenheuvel is commemorated with great solemnity in what are known as the Kroningsfeesten. They were last held in 1997. Our Lady of Scherpenheuvel, Our Lady of Montaigu. Even before the official approbation of the cult of Our Lady of Scherpenheuvel, pilgrims took particles of the oak tree with them as pious souvenirs. Several stories of miracles attributed to the intercession by the Virgin relate of the thaumaturgic power of this Scherpenheuvel or Montaigu wood. Following the approbation, Archbishop Jovius ordered the tree to be cut down. It was divided in several parts. Some remained with the sanctuary. One particularly large piece was given to Albert and Isabella. Most of this Montaigu wood was used to make images of the Virgin Mary. Distributed as gifts among princes, nobles and clergy, they helped to disseminate the cult of Scherpenheuvel. Quite a few Belgian churches and convents came to possess an image carved in Montaigu wood. Well-known examples remain in the Church of St. Charles Borromeo in Antwerp, the Church of St. Hylonius in Izegem, and the Chapel of the Capuchins in Enghien. In the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, the statue of the national patron saint, Our Lady Comforter of the Afflicted or Our Lady of Luxembourg, is believed to contain Montaigu wood. A smallish statue of the Virgin and Child in Montaigu wood was taken by Sainte Marguerite Bourgeois to Montreal and stands presently on her tomb in the Notre Dame de Bon Secours Chapel. Some places of worship became closely associated with the cult of Scherpenheuvel. In the vicinity of their chateau of Marymont, Albert and Isabella founded the Priory of Montaigu in the present-day municipality of Morlanwolds. In the town of Gray, a statue of the Virgin made out of Montaigu wood became the object of a regional devotion. Likewise in the Franche-Comté, the statue donated to the Priory of Bellefontaine in Brussy came to attract many pilgrims. In the proximity of the Spanish court, the convent of Las Descalzas Reales obtained an altar dedicated to Nuestra Señora de Monteagudo. The House of Lorraine had a particular devotion for Scherpenheuvel. Cardinal Charles of Lorraine, Prince Bishop of Strasbourg, founded a chapel dedicated to Our Lady of Scherpenheuvel in the novitiate of the Jesuits at Nancy. After his death in 1607, his sister Antoinette completed the project with an altarpiece depicting the ducal family venerating Our Lady of Scherpenheuvel. The chapel served as the repository of the embalmed hearts of the members of the House of Lorraine until 1720. The cult was also greatly favored by the French Queen Marie de Medici. During her regency, the Descalced Augustinians obtained a statue in Montaigu wood at their church of Notre Dame des Victoires. During her exile, she donated one statue in Montaigu wood to the City Council of Cologne and another to the monastery of the Descalced Carmelites of that city. While serving the Catholic household of her daughter, Queen Henrietta Maria, the Queen's Chapel of St. James's Palace likewise had an altar with a Madonna in Montaigu wood. Feast Day 7th November. Annual Feast Day of Our Lady of Scherpenheuvel is held on 7th November. Mass time. Every days, 7:30 a.m. 6 p.m. Church visiting time. Mondays, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Weekdays and Sundays, 7:15 a.m. to 6 p.m. Contact info. Basilica of Our Lady of Scherpenheuvel. Isabellaplein 13270, Scherpenheuvel Zeehan, Belgium. Website, /www.scherpenheuvel.ben. How to reach the Basilica. Brussels International Airport is located in northeast of Brussels. The capital of Belgium is the nearby airport to the Basilica. Zeehan Transit Station in Scherpenheuvel Zeehan, Belgium is the nearby transit station to the Basilica. If you wish to know more about Catholic shrine basilicas, Marian shrines and Marian apparitions, subscribe to our Catholic Shrine Basilica YouTube channel. Like and share with your loved ones. For more churches website www.catholicshrinebasilica.com.